Hey, all right. You're listening to the Dead Man's Home podcast, a show broadcast live from the trailer park deep in the heart of Meth County, Texas. And tonight we are talking about, me, SK, and Tammy G, we're talking about The Lovely Bones.
Do we have to?
Yeah, kind of, sort
Why
of.
why are you being such a wiener, SK?
It's fun sometimes.
I don't think he got laid.
I mean, how good could it be? This was Tammy's pick.
Oh.
Wow. Wow. Really?
I can tell you already, though, for mentioning this in the Dead Man's Home Facebook group, that I don't know, some mixed opinions about this one. The Lovely Bones. It's like people who read the book don't like the movie, and
What do those people know?
I don't know,
They know the book.
right?
Yeah, but when does the book ever really... They never compare. I never read the book, but I loved the movie, so
Well,
I don't think.
it's one thing to not compare. It's okay. We'll get into it now. So, what do y'all think of The Lovely Bones? Who wants to go first?
Tammy needs to go first. This was her pick. Let's get her views out of the way.
Out of the way? Oh my god! Why am I even here? I thought it was a phenomenal movie. Not reading the
Phenomenal.
book, I can't really compare it, but I think the story was told very well. The actors played their characters very well as well. I
Okay.
liked the cast. There was nobody that I didn't really like in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Okay. Now, I also enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it. I think overall it's good overall, but it does have problems. It has, it's like it's trying to be artsy, but the artist is like a schizophrenic, and is going all over the place in its.
Aren't they usually schizophrenic?
I guess so. So it's like nothing really makes sense, and there's no real consistency in its rules. There aren't any real rules in this movie.
Right.
Things just sort of happen because they happen, and they look cool, kind of, sort of, maybe like a dream sequence. If you're tripping on mushrooms, this would probably be even a better experience. In fact, this
But
is
I
one.
think what they're trying to do is show that in between place between earth and heaven.
Yeah,
And I think that they showed that well.
I didn't really have a problem with the in between. There's some things that I guess, like, image wise, didn't make a whole lot of sense. Like the gazebo. I thought the gazebo was important because that was where she was supposed to meet up with her boyfriend or boy interest. But then it started crumbling when her dad was getting injured or getting beaten up.
No, she was supposed to meet the boy at the mall.
Okay.
Not the gazebo.
Then what's the gazebo? Is that the gazebo part with the dad? How's the gazebo connected with the dad? I guess I missed that.
That could have been a special place. I don't know exactly, but maybe it was a special place for them.
Okay. I think the characters overall were really good. The little girl, the girl, or the actress who played Susie, great. In fact, I started crying when she started told her story, and in the beginning she says, I'm dead, and so I was like, oh God, okay, that sort of movie, because I didn't watch the trailer. First time watching it was like yesterday. It's just, yeah, I think she really delivered her character, portraying that, and I felt for her when she died, and I felt for her when she was like saddened and trying to reach out to her dad and trying to, like, connect with him, I guess, trying to interact with him. But it's like, no, you're dead, you got to move on. But it's like, I don't want to move on. No one in the family wants to move on. The dad doesn't. He wants to solve the murder. The mom's like dealing with that. In the meantime, the daughter's like, I'm here. It's just, I felt that. I felt that emotion there, and that's what I like the most about it.
It's funny how being a dad can change you like that.
Yeah, I think that's what it is really. I was seeing it through that lens. I mean, that makes sense.
I'm not a big fan of Mark Wahlberg, by the way. And I think his acting is juvenile. And not that he acts childish. I mean that he has juvenile level acting ability.
Mm.
He always it always feels like he's acting. Is what I guess what I'm saying. Like he's trying to act.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, in this one, he was doing a lot of that. The Mark Wahlberg like whispers, or not the whispers, but the heavy breathing talk. You know, that's like okay.
Yeah.
When he was explaining his little hobby, his like what do you call that? The miniature boat thing. It's like okay,
Right.
that's interesting. The part where I thought Mark Wahlberg's character had some strength was when he was go kick the guy's ass. Okay, I was like, all right, we're doing this. We're doing this now. But no, you're not doing it. In fact, you think there's gonna be some vengeance, but no, there's no vengeance. It's more like you have to just the anger. You have to learn to let go of the anger and just let the hatred go, and just process and learn to live your life without.
I say kill the motherfucker.
Yeah, kill him. But he tried and got beaten up. So
Be smart about it, for fuck's sake.
well, yeah, you
Yeah,
could be
and you
smarter.
gotta do it the right way, of course. But I don't know, like,
If you
that
lose your temper, you get sloppy and you get caught,
Right.
and you get impatient. If you get impatient, you get caught and you get sloppy.
Well,
And
But as a father, I think you're not thinking like that. Like when I was 12 and something really bad happened to me, my dad didn't think clearly at first. You know what I mean? And he wanted to do something very bad to that person. Didn't go through with it, but I think that's your initial reaction to something like that as a father, and something happens to your daughter.
and I think that's part of the reason why I didn't have a problem with the way he executed that, because it kind of made sense. I can see how a dad would rush that. Would be like, I just want to beat this guy with a baseball bat, not even think it clearly, not even he thinks he sees him there. He's going to charge in. Oh, no, that's not him. That's some other guy. They're getting busy with his girl, and he beats the shit out of him. Meantime, the creepy fuckers, they're watching. It's like, okay.
right, that felt like I mean, I thought that was a really good scene because it felt very much like the neighbor set him up for that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I thought that was really well done. I
neighbor.
agree that most people run off and act in haste on their emotions. I'm just saying, if you want vengeance, be patient.
Yeah, kind of like Gerard Butler and what was that movie? The one where his family was killed. Something Citizen.
Oh,
yeah.
shit. Upstanding Citizen? What was it called?
Yeah, something like that. But he planned that shit out, and fucking did it good.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying with that, definitely.
And if you're gonna get vengeance, look. The first rule in avoiding suspicion, avoiding detection, is avoiding suspicion. So if you're not being suspected of a crime, you're not going to get caught for it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So wait till people aren't looking your way, right? If you go off, if something happens to a family member and you go storming off and do some with the intent of doing some damage, you're the first person they're fucking going to come talk to.
Yeah.
Well, let's I want to talk about the bad guy first, but SK, you haven't given your initial thoughts. So SK, how about you give your initial thoughts, and then we'll talk about we'll carry it wherever you guys want to take it.
There are few things I hate more in a movie than narration. And this had that. And to me, and not just to me, but narration is a sign of a lazy script. Because there are ways to show what you're trying to explain through narration.
Mhm.
So figure it the fuck out and make it a better story. Quit being lazy ass fucks with your screenwriting and directing and make an even better movie.
Okay.
I thought this could have been so good, so amazingly good if they had just not done the goddamn narration.
Okay. Narration. If they didn't use the narration, from understanding, like I said, I haven't read the book, but I understand that in the very beginning, like the girl is like raped and killed. So, like if they would have just start off with that, but then I don't know.
It's
not-
okay. It's okay if you. No, I mean from a movie perspective, that's a really good. That's an important, incident in the story structure.
Mhm.
And I thought one of the things I really liked was liked and didn't like was the little clubhouse in the cornfield. The thing I didn't like about that is how the fuck do you build that and nobody notices?
right?
And where did all the dirt go?
Yeah. True. But
Okay, so let's just we'll gloss over that for a second. The good part was how she went down there, and you start you only gradually start to become aware that she's already dead.
right.
And I thought that was well done. I enjoyed that part.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. It was a little weird at first because I had to go back and make sure I caught that. I was like, wait, what? So to rewind the tape a little bit, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, she's dead now. Oh. I tried to see if there was a part where they kind of gave it away, like him beating her or stabbing her, but it was, she drinks the soda, and I think that might have been, was she dead before the soda? Or was she dead, like, then, I don't know.
I don't think she was dead before the soda. That's not how I took it, at least.
The soda was some sort of like, well, he popped the tap, so it's not like he kind of, well, I don't know.
Well, it's difficult to know exactly what was part of reality as the scene went on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We got a question in the chat too. What's more effective revenge, murder or a form of revenge that does not involve murder but leaves a mark for a long time? Oh.
Murder. I don't know. I think eye for an eye for me. I mean,
The problem with revenge that I understand the concept of wanting someone to suffer for a really long time.
Mhm.
The problem is getting away with it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I
Because
guess-
if you get revenge but the person's still alive,
Mhm.
they're probably going to know who did it.
Yeah, so I say just finish it off. Maybe make them suffer a little bit and then kill them.
I would
Yeah.
capture him. I would capture him
I would-
somehow and put him in a
Yeah.
cage and torture them for. I'd do like a Saw scenario. If I could, like if someone murdered my
Torture.
kids, God forbid, if someone were to do that and I were to catch them, they would be in a cage, and every day, so something horrible would happen to them. I would
Yeah, it would definitely be like a slow, painful
Yeah.
death. Like, it wouldn't be like, I'm just going to shoot you and you're going to die.
Mhm.
I would tie them to a chair in a bathtub or something because you got to do it in a place where you can wash the blood away easily, too. Like, you don't want to.
Yep.
So,
I may or may not have my own plans.
Shit.
Which,
Damn.
I already have the shit planned out. If I had to yeah, I'm kind of sick in the head. But
You already
it's
have a bunch of pigs ready to.
I'm a writer. I can explain it away that through that.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, this is just all planned up. You know, it's for a story I'm working on.
Oh, one thing I guess we could do. Timothy brought up this in the chat. I guess kind of explain what this movie is a little bit. I know we're giving our thoughts and what we liked about certain scenes and characters, but I mean, how would you define this movie?
Timmy.
How would you define this movie? It's like it's
a paranormal thriller.
Yeah, thriller.
Okay. And it's a story about a dead girl trying to process that she's dead. Her family's grieving too. And they're trying to process her loss. And it's like how they handle that. There's no real... Oh, man. And the worst part about it is that the family doesn't get vengeance, really. You know, they just have to learn. It's ugly. It's messy. They have to learn to just process it.
I think that was the part of the movie that I didn't like because, I mean, yes, okay, so he dies at the end, but that's not justice. Like, her body was still covered up, like, the same.
And it was her own fucking fault because she was being a teenage girl and she couldn't even go, you know,
right?
Take a look out. See that safe, that guy out there? That's the guy. Stop him from pushing that safe into the hole.
Well,
and then let's kiss.
Yeah, the girl knew. Like the friend or the neighbor or whatever she was, she knew because you can tell before Susie came to her, she knew. Like she knew that was her, that was the killer, because she was calling for the guy, and then that's when Susie came in. But maybe at that point Susie was at peace with it, and so it was kind of like whatever.
Yeah, but we weren't. The audience
what about
wasn't.
The rest of the family?
We weren't. See, I wasn't at peace with it. I was kind of like with the sister. I was like, okay, you broke in, you got the book, which I don't know how the fuck she figured that one out. But which, by the way, that scene. Do you want to talk about that real fast? Because that scene was pretty intense.
It was so intense. I'm like, fuck, he's gonna kill their other daughter.
Right.
And he was already planning on it though. Like she was going to be the next victim.
Right, because he was worried about her.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's actually one part of the movie where, you know, they gave it away in the very beginning that she's already dead. He kind of knew that was going to happen, so there's no real surprise. It's like, okay, when is it going to happen? I wasn't sure about the other girl. You know, like she could just be disposable. Why not? So that one I was actually, okay, is he actually going to get her? That was good.
But once she made it outside, it was like, okay, there's not much he can do at this point because they're in plain sight. So,
right.
I mean, it was a good thing she jumped out of the window when she did. But that scene was super tense because it was like, fuck, is he going to get her? Is she going to die too? This poor family. Yeah.
Now, but there's something else about this film, but that scene in particular where it comes out, is that the characters seem to have like superhuman stuff every now and then. Like, he's like listening very closely to even the sounds of the page being turned. Like, what was that? What was that?
Well, I think what he was really hearing was the creak of the floor.
Oh yeah.
But we have so much sound around us in this day and age, with computers running and music and all this kind of shit. It's hard to remember back in the day without all this external noise how quiet a house could be.
That's true, and this was set in like what the
70s.
70s, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a house could be. I at first was like, I don't know, and then I was like thinking back and go, you know what? She had the door open, so there was open space. He might have been able to detect, not really enough to identify the sound, but to go, wait, something's going on.
Right.
Well, but didn't he see didn't he see down in the basement that the window was broken out?
He missed that. He turned around before he saw
it. Okay.
Yeah. But a very faint sound. But like I say, I think he was on. It was just enough to make him on guard and to listen more intently. But I thought that was well done. Um, it kind of reminded me, one of the things I have said in the past is, when it comes to film and TV, nobody gets more people killed than teenage girls.
Yeah.
And I totally expected that to be the case here, but it wasn't.
But see, I started that with talk about some characters have like superhuman, almost like X-Men like abilities. Oh, so so the neighbor, the goth chick or whatever, she can kind of see the dead, kind of sort of. That's never really explained, but it's kind of like, okay, that happens. All right. Okay, I'll take that. But then later on, I guess at the end of the film, it's not only can she see the dead, but she can become the dead. I was like, okay.
Yeah. It was, sometimes the dead can interact with the living, sometimes they can't.
Mm-hmm.
One time, without any setup at all, she can, possess the body of another person.
Yeah.
And actually be, cause the potential boyfriend to see her real face. It's just like, whatever.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I say this movie doesn't really have any sort of set rules or consistency in its logic. It's just sort of.
But that's not the first movie where a spirit inhabits somebody's body and then they look like that person.
Well, okay, in like a horror film, yeah. I mean, I would expect that to happen, but like just there, all of a sudden. Okay. It was.
I've legit seen someone's face change.
Oh.
On a paranormal investigation.
Okay, well, I mean, most people haven't. Oh, well, so that happens?
I've seen it. I've seen it happen.
Okay.
This bitch freaked me the fuck out. Never experienced anything like that in my fucking life. And this bitch, fucking her face morphed. Everybody there saw it happen. She claimed to be a psychic. And she was a fucking weirdo. But her face literally changed.
So she just turned into a completely different person?
Yeah, like the spirit that was, because we were up, it was St. Mary's Hospital in Virginia City, and we were up in the room where one of the patients, basically, he caused a fire, and it caused him and I think a nurse or two to die. But we were in his room, and she was, and at first I thought she was just acting, because she was fucking batshit crazy. But she was like, this thing was like taking over her. And she starts like talking, like saying things, I guess, that he would say. And then she looks at us and her fucking face legit was different. And we're all like, what the fuck? Like, and somebody invited this bitch to stay the night with us. And I'm like, she needs to fucking go. Mm-hmm. She was a creepy fucking bitch. But right. Yeah, no, I legit saw her face change.
Oh, shit.
So, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
One first and last time I saw that happen. But I mean, I don't know. I think that was just a way for the movie to show that she finally got to kiss the guy. And
that was such a left turn, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody's chasing down the killer and he's making his getaway, and she goes to the place where he's getting ready to throw her literally her bones into this sinkhole, and she goes, you know what, I'm gonna just go try and kiss this guy.
Well, I think what happens is because all the girls that were dead, because he got caught, right? They show that he got found out, not in a way that he should have got caught, but the cops now knew it was him. So that now freed all those girls, so now everybody could be at peace. But she wanted to be at peace with experiencing that one thing that she was never going to get to experience.
See, I didn't see it that way. I thought she was still okay. I thought she was still kind of in the limbo, or whatever, because her bones are left behind or something. Or didn't she was like, oh, but I have to go take care of something. I thought it was like, okay, you're gonna finally, like, maybe she caught wind that somehow connection, because somehow it doesn't really explain how the ghost can really connect and interact with other people. Okay, but whatever. But maybe she got the gist, got the memo, got the email that the killer is almost identified and your bones are about to go into a sinkhole.
No.
You better stop that.
Were you not paying attention?
Yeah,
It shows
SK and I were
how
paying
those
attention. I
things
think
out.
we're on the same kind of the same
Absolutely,
question.
that's exactly how it looked like it was playing out. Because the protagonist has to defeat the antagonist in the end directly,
But
right? But
That's
she
not
didn't.
how I saw it. I mean, those girls all got rectified because he got found out. It was about him getting caught, basically.
But he
Which
wasn't
freed those
caught.
girls.
he wasn't
But
really
he was
caught.
in a sense because he wasn't caught because he left. But the cops now knew it was him because of the book.
But he's gonna flee and then change identity.
Yes,
and-
But
I
he still,
understand that he's
no,
free
see, he
to-
got away.
Yes, I get that he got away, but they now knew that he was the killer and that he killed those girls. Regardless if he got away or not, the cops knew the truth. And that's
Well-
what freed those girls.
Oh, well, hold on.
You see,
They
it
didn't.
goes literally from the cops going to his house to the girls being freed.
Yeah, but let's be real here. When they got to his house, we don't really know what sort of other evidence he has at his house. I mean, the body's in that box. Without a body, you don't really have.
The book
Much.
had everything in it.
The book doesn't have a body. It doesn't have.
Oh
you
my
mo-
god.
I mean, that's probably not gonna be. And I'm just saying, law enforcement wise, that's probably not gonna be enough to
Yeah.
really prosecute
but
him.
it's
It's
a movie.
enough evidence for a warrant. It's not enough for a conviction.
But it's
Yeah.
a movie. And like you guys said, the movie didn't follow any rules. So, I mean, it was pretty clear. It shows the cops at his house. Then it directly goes to the scene where the girls are free.
Well, let's be fair. It shows the one cop who's been tired of dealing with this case. He's been, I guess you could say, bombarded by the father of all these other leads and possible things. He was like, I'm
Right.
done with it. I'm done with this case. Okay, what's going on here? This guy again? Okay. So he didn't really know. And like, I still kind of struggle with this movie because it's like, I wanted the vengeance. I wanted that closure. Looking at this movie as a perspective as a father, I wanted that. But to me, I think this movie works better as just looking at as a family processing a loss. In that the moral of the story is going for vengeance, going for blood like that, that's not healthy. That's not therapeutic. It's not going to help you. It's going to cause more harm. Trying to live the life you can, trying to not move on, but to keep who you lost with you, I guess, in spirit, but still live your life. You know, how you do that, I don't know. I mean, this movie kind of showed, I guess, poor ways you can do that. And how it can mess up.
Well, and in fact, every time you see a family who loses a family member at a young age, they always handle it poorly.
Right. Because
Well,
how
in
do you-
every movie, either the couple splits up or whatever. Like,
Right.
it's very, and even, I mean, in real life, a lot of the time that's what happens because they don't know how to process those emotions and feelings.
right.
A parent's
So-
not supposed to lose their child. That's
You
just
know,
not.
you can count on in cinema, you know, a couple of things happening. One is the wife blames the husband, and or she retreats into her a very self-absorbed cocoon. You know, just I'm going to say wallowing. I'm not saying it's not justified, right? But you know, just completely absorbed by her own pain and oblivious to everything else.
Yeah.
And or you know, the husband becomes a rageaholic.
But
so-
sometimes it's the father that gets all consumed because in this movie, it was more the father that was consumed
Yeah.
than the mother.
That's what SK was saying. About
Yeah, but he
rageaholic.
wasn't turned inward. He was turned outward with his obsession. Exactly. So you'll see that if a man gets obsessed, wants to take action. When the mother gets obsessed, she collapses inward.
Sometimes.
That's typically how it's portrayed.
There's some ladies that I'm sure if they lose someone, they would like burn everything down they can, you know.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
I'm just saying that's what Hollywood thinks grief looks like in all cases. Those three options, four options. And you're right, Tammy. It is very true. And I've mentioned this on Real Monsters on more than one occasion, that murder kills families. Because it's so difficult for people to deal with it. And typically, you know, it's almost impossible that as a couple, you both can progress through that grief at a similar pace.
Right.
And
well, even like a natural loss of a child, like usually it ends because people just don't. And I think the problem too is everybody handles grief differently. Everybody mourns differently. You know, some people think there's a time frame. Okay, well, after my dad died, I was pretty fucked up for a long time. And my best friend was like, it's been such and such time, it's time to move on. No, that was my father. Like, how can you say that?
Right. So you're right. There's no timeline. The 5 stages of grief is bullshit, by the way.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
There are no stages of grief. There's just whatever it is you go through. You can't map it out. You can't plan it out. You can't expect it. Some people, the 5 stages, you know, a few people that actually works for, but generally speaking, everybody goes through an entirely different process.
Yeah. Or they might go through a certain pattern of it, like anger first, then remorse. But you know, when they say the 5 stages, they make it seem like, oh, you go through one, you go to the next level, then the next level, next stage, and then you'll be okay. It's like, no, man. It's like, it's not that easy.
I don't think you're ever okay. Like, I think you learn how to deal with it differently.
Yeah, and you learn how to live with it. You don't ever get over it.
No, I mean,
and I've heard that from people who've lost children decades ago. And they still say every day, I think about them every day.
Yeah,
and it still hurts every day.
Like for me, like my parents, like I saw my parents every single day. And if I didn't see them, I talked to them on the phone multiple times. Like, and to this day, anything that happens or just randomly, like I want to pick up the phone and tell my dad something. Like that's never going to change.
So I guess you'd be good to ask it. I mean, like, what helps you? What helps you to cope?
I don't know. I guess for me, like, the biggest thing that I've always told myself was, like, God needed him for something greater. And, I mean, that I guess that was my best way of dealing with it. Because it shouldn't have happened. The way he died, it shouldn't have happened. So that's really hard, especially, you know, it's one thing if like you had a parent that was sick and you knew it was coming or, you know, they had problems and that, you know, but when it happens, like when it's not supposed to happen, I think that makes it even harder. But I don't know. I feel like, and he visits my mom a lot. So I think that gives me some peace too. He's never visited me, which I don't understand that, but yeah.
Ooh, maybe he thinks it would freak you out too much. It'd be too much.
Well, no, I know he knows it wouldn't because he knew how much into the paranormal and all that, and that I was sensitive. Maybe I'm just not ready.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe.
But I don't know. It's hard. And
that's part of the reason why, like, as much as I criticize this movie for its inconsistency, its illogical. That didn't make any sense, but I liked it. I liked the feels. I liked the emotion. I could connect with that, not in the way you can because I never experienced a loss like that. But as a father, like if I were to lose my kids, man, I don't know what I would think. I'd probably end up like Wahlberg in this film. I would try to maybe I would be all paranoid and be like, oh, I think it's the neighbor. I don't really know why, but I think it's the neighbor. I'm seeing some things that make me think it is. Because in this movie, it was kind of like they're going on a hunch. I think she was trying to give him clues, right? Wasn't she trying to like? There, I don't know, but I would be driven to madness if I lost my kids.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, how could you not be?
Right.
Especially in that way.
And the worst part is, is when there's nobody to bring to justice.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
and you're just
the parents that have like kids that are dead and like in their like cold case files. Like how do they deal with that? I don't even know.
Not well. Yeah, it's not. That's got to be about the toughest thing.
I think closure is like the most important thing, and if you don't have closure, like how can you move on? Like, okay, is my child dead, or and nowadays, so many kids are kidnapped for sex trafficking and all that. Like, now there's all different things that could happen, but you have no idea. So without that closure, it's just fucked.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a kind of scenario where you could have one parent who's like believes that the child is dead and another one who doesn't. And that can you imagine the conflict that brings up?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you have one parent like, okay, we need to move on, and then the other one's like, no, she's still out there.
And that was and that's a conflict that could drive them apart, and they start hating each other. And
yeah, and the thing that happens, I think, the most of all between couples during as a result of these kinds of tragedies is that one of the people in the develops resentment towards the other for whatever reason.
Right.
Like they blame them somehow for not doing more, being more diligent, or whatever, or somebody blames the other person for hanging on too long, or getting over it too quick, or not taking it serious enough, or whatever it is. It all happens. I think so much of the problems that arise out of this kind of grief come from failing to accept reality.
Right.
Trying to so hard to wish this unbelievable horror wasn't true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's, the case a lot of the time with people who lose family or a loved one to murder. Because how do you even begin to process that and understand why it happened and all of that?
Man. Yeah, and then the oh God, it just. And you're just dwelling with that negative emotion. You're just dwelling with the loss. You're dwelling with the grief. I don't know, man. That can consume you, and it does. I'm not a therapist. Not gonna pretend to be. Not a self-help book, and those things are kind of garbage too. It's like, except for SK's. His is the best.
Right.
Wow.
I had to put that in there.
Fucking A. Holy fuck.
I don't cover grief in there, by the way.
Right. That's, I don't, I put on the title here, how to cope with a loss. And I don't have a magic answer. And Tammy experienced a loss like that. And I liked her story. I liked what she said. And it worked for her, I don't know whether you believe in God or heaven or whatever. Sometimes just whatever it is that helps you have some sort of peace of mind, I suppose. Otherwise, you're just, I don't know, just consumed by it.
You can never go wrong by accepting reality for what it is.
Accepting reality?
Yeah.
That's hard. How do you do that? That's complicated.
Yeah, like lost in time in general.
It's such a rare thing that it bears mentioning. We as human beings are really great at avoiding reality at all costs. But there are times when it is absolutely essential.
Mhm.
Is awful, and usually the worse a situation is, the more important it is to accept reality. For example, this is a completely different topic, but when people find themselves in a life or death survival situation, the quicker you accept the reality of that situation, the more likely you are to survive it. If you sit around moping like, why me? Why does this shit always happen to me? Blah, 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 blah. Instead of going, oh shit, I'm lost.
Okay.
In a snowstorm, I got to do something.
So be in the moment, live in the moment, not be consumed by your worries and dread. Yeah.
Right. Or blame.
Sense. Yeah.
Or what if?
Totally. I mean, even with like my health situation, like I was so all consumed with it when it first happened to me, and I didn't experience any healing. But once I accepted what happened and was like, okay, I need to do this, 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 and this, then I experienced some level of healing. Like you have to accept whatever happens, no matter what it is, as shitty as it may be.
Yeah.
Right.
This is like the most important part.
And I think if a couple has any chance at all of staying together through a tragedy like this, it would only be the case if both people were able to reach a level of acceptance of the reality of their situation.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that.
And that requires, this can sound basic, but it does require them to talk to one another and not shut down. And
right.
The other is going to get defensive. And so, oftentimes, even not even talk about grief and loss, but when you're arguing with your wife or you're arguing with your husband, he or she might get defensive, and the next thing you point out, oh, why are you getting defensive? That doesn't help, because then all of a sudden you're like pointing out, oh, you're getting defensive. No, you're getting defensive, and it's like, oh, you're not really talking about the situation. You're not talking about the problem. You're talking about how the other person's reacting to it, how they're perceiving it, how they're processing it. It's like, okay, well.
But why do people get defensive?
Well,
I mean, I think a lot of the time people get defensive because they're guilty of it, of whatever.
Well, let me say this: in an argument, pointing out, oh, why are you getting defensive? That doesn't ever really help. That just okay. So now you're attacking me. That's how it's perceived. I mean.
Well, they're defensive because they feel attacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
It goes both ways.
Whether they are actually being attacked or not is a separate question.
Right. It's
but they feel attacked.
Yeah.
Because they're guilty. No, I'm just kidding.
Probably not.
Usually.
Maybe. I mean, could be.
Usually, I mean, I don't get defensive unless, like...
You're defensive now.
Why are you so defensive, Tammy?
See?
What are you talking about?
See? Okay.
No, yeah. I agree with Tammy, though. People who get defensive are usually feeling guilty about something.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need to get defensive on something if
you feel blameless.
Yeah, I mean,
no, but sometimes people will perceive someone's reaction as being defensive, and it's not defensive. It's like trying to explain and trying to just it goes back and forth.
No, I think when people get defensive, and then like when people are trying to like get out of some bullshit, they end up talking too much. Like that just shows me that you're guilty. Like if your story like is like hecka long, then you're covering some shit up too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Pro tip: if your girl accuses you of cheating, you just say no.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Exactly.
Now we're talking about. Now we're getting into something else. Yeah, I'm just talking about like. I guess talk about things related to like the loss and grieving, and then someone might get defensive, like someone might like, oh, it's your fault. It might just say something like, oh, well, it would have happened if this would have happened. Oh, why are you saying that? Or why are you getting defensive? Because what do you mean has something to do with me? Like, it's like, you guys have to actually like talk about it, to stop blaming each other. Just like be able to process it, talk about it without accusing each other. I mean, that's if a couple is gonna have any chance of surviving at all.
Yeah, you can't accept reality and also blame. If you're still blaming, you're not accepting reality.
Yeah.
Because blame is a what if game.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened. I'm blaming you for this because if you hadn't have done that, this wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't accept reality and blame, because blame is kind of the opposite of acceptance.
Right.
Yeah, it is the opposite. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. That makes sense. Now, before we wrap up, so would y'all watch this movie again? Do you recommend it?
I've seen it 1,000 times, so yeah, I would. I think it's a good movie.
I would, but she's still gonna go and kiss that guy instead of catching the bad guy.
Yeah.
Which is such a teenage girl move.
Ugh.
Like, oh, it's all right.
Yeah.
He's gonna throw my body into this pit, but I'm gonna get kissed. Like, that's the only moment she had,
Right.
and she couldn't take 1 minute out from, looking googly eyes at this guy to say, by the way,
you know what?
that safe has my body in it.
She also was murdered at 14. She was crazy about the boy,
Mm-hmm.
and she got to experience that one thing that she will never get to really experience because she was taken so soon. So I get the kiss. I understand that part.
Yeah,
I can
I'm
get
sure
that mentality of a 14-year-old girl, or of a girl. Period.
Yeah.
I mean, she liked the guy, or she loved the guy. So yeah, it does. Like, I wanted vengeance, it just didn't happen, but that's okay. I could live with that. I would recommend this movie, but if you're on shrooms, like, there's one sequence in here that we didn't really talk about that is so like, why was that there? The part where they're doing all the dance stuff and all the crazy stuff and the limbo, whatever, the in between. Like, what was that? What was all that stuff?
What do
what
you
I'm talking
mean? The limbo?
Yeah, the part where they're
which dance stuff.
Okay, where they're putting on the costumes and she's like riding on rainbows and stuff, and they're like doing, her and the Asian chick are doing all sorts of fantastic things together, like
Doing a Double Mint commercial.
Yeah,
They're just trying. That was just whoever made this movie's impression of what that middle place is like, I guess, or what it was like for them.
Peter Jackson's that's Peter Jackson's heaven. Well, not really heaven, like purgatory. But I didn't really feel that sequence really fit with the movie or with the rest of the story, because it
was the 70s. I mean,
I guess, but so she experienced all that fun, but then she's all like, "Oh, but I am mad, and I'm gonna reach over to my dad, and I'm gonna do." It's like, okay. It's like she got over being dead, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, but I'm just a dead girl." It's like, okay, you weren't really concerned about that the first time.
she's going to have different. She's going to experience different emotion too about being dead.
Well,
Yeah,
it looked
that's
like she got over
totally a
first,
girl thing.
Oh, shut up, SK.
Well, no, I'm not actually being silly about that. Women, their moods change. Like, no, do they ever not change?
I Well, they changed one time.
I mean, women's emotions, they're always in flux. So
But
that's
I know
not
men that are
that's
that
not
way
inconsistent.
Too,
What's that?
I know men that are that way too.
Yeah, that's really sad.
Yeah. Some betas.
Wow.
Some betas. But I will tell you this. Apparently that
I
sequence, that fantastic sequence, wasn't even in
Yeah?
the book. It was not even at all in the book. That stuff never happened. It was... So that was the Peter Jackson way of making this even more like not family friendly, or I don't know, just something amazing to see. And then now we're gonna get back to the book, or now we get back to the story. So okay, that's what. But anyway,
Yeah, it was kind of. It really was kind of a. It looked like she was going to be accepting of her situation. She's having fun with her little guide friend, and they're just playing, and which seemed to me like the guide girl was just trying to get her, happy and distracted enough to cross over.
right. Which, oh man,
She almost did.
She almost did, and if they would have played it like that, that would have explained it a little bit better. Man, you know what? There's a movie that they handled this sort of subject matter. God, I don't know. This kind of reminds me of Beetlejuice a little bit, because that girl went into like the afterlife in between. But you know what? Never mind. That's a whole thing. I'll table this thoughts now because we're wrapping up. It's just, but I would still recommend the movie. Just maybe on mushrooms or DMT or something. Or if you want to cry.
DMT doesn't last as long as this movie.
So take it.
So I've heard.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's about it. Well,
It was an interesting movie. There were some really good aspects of it. There were some disappointing ones. I don't know if I'll go back to it.
I did enjoy the vivid colors. Like that stuff was great. But that's not enough, Yeah. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still watching, press the like button, share, subscribe. You guys take it easy.